Chris, did you know that Dan Chizina's 23-yard catch on Sunday for the Panthers is more yards than what Jonathan Mingo and Deontay Johnson have combined with their other teams? Just saying. The numbers are the numbers, Chris.
I didn't expect that intro, but man. Oh, man, Dan Chizina. Sounds like John Cecina. And those guys can't even see his production.
Let's get this sucker started.
Get dialed in, Panthers fans. Here comes an in-depth look at your team. Exclusive interviews. Locker room insight. Ready? Let's huddle up.
Let's just do it, okay?
For Panthers Playbook, driven by Carolina Ford Dealers. Here are your hosts, Dennis Cox and Chris Lea.
Welcome back to another episode of Panthers Playbook. That's Chris Lea, Dennis Cox here with you. I'm going to let Chris Lea settle down after the Dan Chizina comparison just a moment ago. But before we get into anything we're talking about today, especially Chuba Hubbard, the Panthers defense, make sure you check out Carolina Ford Dealers, our sponsor of Panthers Playbook. With a Ford F-150 on your team, it's game on. See your Carolina Ford dealer today. All right, folks, leave your thoughts in the comment section on the Panthers defense. And also your thoughts on Chuba Hubbard. Also, while hitting the subscribe button there. Something that Luke Kuechly said with Kay Adams, the Up and Adams show, part of FanDuel, the FanDuel TV network, Kay Adams, had Luke Kuechly on, Chris, and you actually showed this to me earlier this week, which, by the way, hope everyone is enjoying their holiday time right now.
Yes.
Hope everyone enjoy it, and Merry Christmas to you as well, Chris.
Thank you. Same to you.
Luke Kuechly, thank you.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Thank you. Luke Kuechly said that if we had 53 Chubas, we're going to be a really, really good team. Because he mentioned about how Chuba Hubbard came in, Christian McCaffrey was here, continued to work and grind. Miles Sanders was brought in, still continued to work and grind. And now he's being rewarded for that work that he's been doing for the last 4 seasons. Now, and is obviously in his 4th year in the NFL, gets paid this offseason, and has put together 2 of his best games of his career since getting the contract extension. Shout-outs to him, our NFC Offensive Player of the Week, Chuba Hubbard. Let's go.
You know what? Chuba Hubbard's somebody that we've ragged on at times. Because early in his career, he was bad with drops. Sometimes he wasn't good with protection in the pocket. Picking up a blitzer here or there. There was times that he was horrible on picking up blocks, even on the punt team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just a guy that really didn't have it all together and kept getting better. You kept seeing the gradual progression every single year. They brought in guys to essentially take his job.
Yep.
Hey, this guy had a good year for this team who went to this big game, and we're going to reward him with money to come take your job because we traded away the other guy that we really believed in. And you outperform that guy and take his job, and he is, I guess coming back at some point in the season, but who knows what his role is going to be on the team. And then you get paid, and then you all of a sudden have the best year of your career because you're given the opportunities. And some could argue you'd probably be the top running back in NFL if the Panthers ran it as much as they should have. But that's another conversation for another day.
Mm-hmm.
Chuba Hubbard is exactly what you want. He's a 4th-round draft pick who ended up, getting a second contract with the team and who's now become probably will go down as one of the best Panthers ever, just based off of how the fans feel about him.
Sure.
Not talking about stats or anything like that or what he's accomplished, because ultimately he's a part of a losing team. But he could be one of the catalysts to help get this thing turned around. And seeing the videos from Bank of America Stadium where fans were on their way out chanting, Chuba, 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 after the game was over, as they're going down the ramps, leaving the stadium. That's awesome to me. And that lets me know that he's definitely arrived in the hearts and minds of the Carolina Panthers fans. And that's what they were looking for. That's what we've been looking for. When you trade away the guys that we love and everything else is a revolving door, there's nobody to really latch onto. Now there's somebody to latch onto. Now it'll be easier to make this turnaround. And, hey, Luke Kuechly is right. I also hope that the other 52 guys look at that as a challenge. Oh, man, Luke Kuechly, probably one of the best linebackers ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just called us out and said we need to be more like him, because if we're more like him, this team is definitely one of the best teams in the NFL.
No, for sure. And this is something we're starting to see with this franchise. You talk about the fans chanting Chuba Hubbard's name as they're leaving Bank of America. We've seen the team over the last few weeks. I know there was the sputter against Dallas, but overall ascending. Mm-hmm. Overall going up. And the culture that Dave Canales and Dan Morgan have wanted since they got there, since we were right here, Chris.
Yeah.
Since they were right here.
We're getting here.
We're getting here.
We're here.
And that's the most important thing. And the fan base is also buying in as well. They were a 3-win team going into this Sunday. They were still there chanting. Was the full stadium? No, but they were chanting. They were behind this team, and fans are starting to buy into what the team is doing well. And I think that's a big-time thing, because when's the last time as fans you felt bought in? Like, be real. Like, was it 2018 before Cam Newton had the shoulder injury? Like, when's the last time you were fully bought in?
I'm going to
be
real.
A fan?
I'm going to be real. It was tough seeing Cam Newton go and Greg Olsen go and things like that. But in 2020, for me personally, maybe not a lot of other people, I was thinking, okay, maybe this is the beginning of something new. And you see Teddy Bridgewater, who had a decent year.
Yeah.
I mean, that offense was cooking that year.
It was pretty good.
Like, it was cooking that year. And so you're thinking, with a healthy Christian McCaffrey and with the way Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, and Curtis Samuel were playing with Teddy Bridgewater and all of these close games, maybe we come back in 2021 and this thing is coming back up. And that didn't happen.
No, it did not.
So I would say, honestly, I was bought in 2020. It's just that that's such a forgettable year because of the pandemic. But, before that, a lot of Panthers fans checked out pretty much in that 19 year. Like that was a tough year as a Carolina Panthers fan in 2019 when you fire Ron Rivera in the middle of the year. The offense is virtually non-existent.
Yeah.
And you got Kyle Allen who's doing that, and we just got shots of Cam Newton in the in the suites, dealing with his injury. So but for me it was 2020 for sure.
Yeah, it's been a long time since people have bought in. And Chuba Hubbard should be a byproduct of what you want as a franchise. I even throw Derrick Brown into that too. I know Derrick Brown was obviously a top 10 pick, but drafting good players that you can reward with second contracts that are building blocks for your team going forward. That's the model of what pretty much every team around the NFL wants to do, and Chuba Hubbard obviously is a big part of that. We'll see what some of these young pieces that were brought in, have they been perfect, the rookies this year, Chris? No, they haven't been, but you can still see progress from these young guys. You can still see, hey, this is someone that could be part of this team going forward. May not be a star, may not be a stud, but still a piece going forward with this franchise. Again, I like the way this team is going. Let's see how they finish this year, Chris. I'm curious what your thoughts are, how you want this team to finish out with the Bucs coming up this Sunday and then the final year on the road against Atlanta and Michael Penix. I'm curious what your thoughts. What do you want to see from this team these last couple weeks?
Get 2 wins.
All right, I'm with you.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm with it.
Triple the win total from last year and have the best win total since Steve Wilkes was the interim head coach. I think that's what needs to happen, in my opinion. And forget about what the draft stock is or where you're going to fall within that. As the Carolina Panthers, this is a losing season, this will go down as a losing season. You need to still try to set a winning culture. You will have a top 10 pick. It might be number 10, but you're going to have a top 10 pick. That is fine, because last year, until you traded up in the first round, you didn't have a first round pick. So not only will you have a first round pick, it'll be a top 10 pick. I don't care if it's 3 or it's 10. What I do care about are wins. I want Bryce Young. I want this offensive line. I want what's ever going to be left of the defense and the young players to finish the season on a high note. So they go into the offseason with some swagger. So they go into the offseason with a good taste in their mouth, and they can look at it and say, you know what? From the last 3 weeks of the year, we've got 3 wins. Now let's build on that. And that was half of the win total that we had in the entire year. And so if we played like those 3 weeks the entire year, imagine if we take that into 2025 and what we can do. That confidence, as we've seen with Bryce Young, can do wonders for a player individually and also collectively. because those players need to believe in each other. They also need to believe in themselves. Winning helps that. Winning is the biggest thing. I don't care about where they're picking. We know we have a first-round draft pick. Go win.
So I'll even stretch that a little bit further. The last 9 games of the year, for example, if they do get these last 2 wins, these last 2 weeks, if you look at the last 9 games of the season, 5 wins, 4 losses. Now, there was a 4-game losing streak in the middle there, but that's the game winner at the buzzer by the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
That's the overtime loss against the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yep.
You also throw in there Xavier Legette having the ball go through his hands against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Which
3 games where you go,
won the game.
Exactly. That's what it goes to show you, hey, this is how much further we still need to go, but you're still right there, learning how to win right here. Because you can sit there and say, gosh, you know what? If we make a couple more plays, as opposed to going 5-4, that's potentially legit 8-1.
Yes.
Like, that's the thing to think about. Like, if you want this team to have a winning culture and winning mindset and learn how to win, you got to win.
And that also could be good enough for you to possibly sneak into playoffs and win the division.
Yeah. Oh, please. Please.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Saints are going this direction. Tampa Bay is kind of like, all right, they're still like 500 team.
Yeah.
And Atlanta
is like,
who knows? Who knows with Atlanta? They already benched their QB. Who knows? And then, again, with that possibly that top 10 pick that you talked about, and if you draft and continue to develop well, then yes, you should continue to go upward as a team. Yeah, you can win these last couple of games and still get better. Just because you might not be drafting 3 or 10, guess what? The players on the team right now do not give a damn where that draft pick is.
No.
They don't care. They're there to win and stay employed. That's what matters to them. They don't give a damn if your pick is 8, 9, 10, or 4. They do not care because guess what? You could trade that pick anyway. We've seen it happen before. We saw the Panthers go from 9 to 1.
Yeah.
They don't care where that pick is. They're like, hey, you know what? Like, hey, man, like, hey, block well today, but don't block too well. I want us to get that 7th pick, guys. Like, they're not saying that.
Be where your feet are.
Exactly.
Be where your feet are.
Exactly.
And I'm 100% with you on that. Like, and what a great second half of the year this team has had. And, you know, compared to the way it started off. And we've had folks like Dan Orlovsky and other folks saying, like, I've never seen this type of vibes change within a team in the same season.
Yeah.
Where there's one player who looks like a complete bust, all of a sudden looks like one of the best quarterbacks in football right now at this moment because of just the differences, being comfortable, being confident. Like, it's amazing. It's the same system. It's the same players, but you're starting to see where confidence and comfortability, how it can make a huge difference. Going back to what I said before. So, I'm 100, and then whatever rookies and new incoming players come in next year from free agency, right? They're going to come into a team that has a core that's already confident in what they're doing. They're not going to look at it like, this new dude Dave is in here, and we had this guy Frank last year, but he was gone halfway through the year, so we don't know what's going to go on. No. They're going to say, hey, listen to coach, because we did this last year. We went through this, and now you shorten that learning curve for the people who are coming in next year, and then you can have maybe quicker success earlier in the year because of that confidence. So that's what I mean. You've been a part of teams.
Oh, yeah.
I've been a part of teams. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is a huge part of it, man. And I think that winning definitely can help carry over. You don't tank and expect to just pick back up because of one top 10 pick or one top 5 pick.
Yeah.
That person's going to be on one side of the ball.
playing one position. Unless
you get Travis Hunter. But
that's a little bit different.
But for the most part, that person's going to be on one side of the ball. You need both sides of the ball to be going in the right direction towards the end.
And hopefully the defense, because, the defense, like, bruh, like, I have some numbers for you, Chris. This is some numbers for you this season.
I might walk out.
Yeah. In 14 of 15 games, the Panthers have allowed 100 yards or more rushing. in 14 of 15 games. In 11 of 15 games, Chris, the opponents have rushed for at least 150 yards. Okay. In 12 of 15 games, the Panthers have allowed at least 4.5 yards per carry. In 6 games this year, Chris, they've allowed 200 or more yards rushing, including each of the last 4. And of 9 of 15 games this year, Chris, they've allowed 180 or more yards rushing. In over half the games this season, Chris, they've allowed at least 180 yards rushing. I understand sometimes they're scrambling quarterbacks. I get that. We saw it a little bit with Kyler Murray, along with guys like, Patrick Mahomes scrambling a little bit. But let's be real. That's bad. Call it what it is. For example, Chris, the top 2 rushing games for the New Orleans Saints this season, 197 yards in Week 9 and 180 yards in Week 1. Those are the second and fourth most rushing yards that the Saints have had this season. They don't have a scrambling quarterback unless you count Taysom Hill. But that's really it. The LA Chargers, Justin Herbert wasn't really scrambling around, 219 yards. That was the most yards they've had rushing this season. We're against the Panthers. The Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow ain't scrambling. Their most rushing yards in the game this year against the Carolina Panthers. Atlanta, Week 6, 198 yards. Their most rushing yards in a game this season. Kirk Cousins ain't scrambling around. He wasn't then. Trust me, he's not doing it now because he's on the bench. Tampa Bay, Week 13, 236 yards.
This is depressing.
I'm just saying. The Dallas Cowboys, Cooper Rush wasn't scrambling around. They had their most rushing yards in a game this season at 211 against the Panthers. His name's Cooper Rush, and he is dropping dimes. Like, it's not just because of scrambling quarterbacks, folks. I had people tell me that when I was hosting a radio show on Monday earlier this week. It ain't just because of scrambling QBs. This is just straight flat bad. It's just straight flat bad. And guess what they've had these last few weeks, Chris?
What's that?
Starters healthy. 9 of their 11 starters. I get Derrick Brown and Shaq Thompson right there.
I was just about to go there. Those two being out doesn't cut that in half.
It doesn't.
Right?
It doesn't.
It means that everything is bad. Like, individually things are bad, collectively things are bad. Something needs to change. And I'm sorry that, like, those two being back, if those two were to play this year, if they never did get hurt, maybe those numbers are a little bit better.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you it's going to stay mostly the same. It's not about those guys, honestly. I'm sorry, bro. We need another defensive coordinator. I like Ejiro Evero personally.
Yeah.
He seems like a great guy. Seems like he has a great future ahead of him. But also, and I'll say this too, it's not just him. It's the personnel as well.
Oh,
like
it's all of it.
Personnel needs to get a lot better. But also, like, we've seen somebody like a Jim Harbaugh, whose Chargers team, I can't remember where they were, but they were one of the top teams in allowing, in rushing yards per game last year, and now they stopped the run. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They stopped the run and they run the ball. And sometimes it's a simple philosophy change. And bro, that's depressing when you just put it out there. But that goes back to how we started this show.
Yeah.
What Luke Kuechly said. If you have 53 Chubas on this team.
Yeah. Here's the thing, even if Derrick Brown's in there, even if Derrick Brown is in there, is your scheme that dependent on one guy? If your scheme is built around one guy being there, your scheme was never going to work to begin with.
Let's hope they run it to the B gap on the right side.
Right. It stinks. Now, again, I know there are a bunch of injuries during the middle of the season. I understand. But again, these last few weeks, the starters have been there. Bro. That's the thing that's disturbing to me. It's like, wait a second. Bro. Remember James Conner on Sunday had 12 carries for 111 yards in the first half. The first half, James Conner did that.
Bad.
Who knows what Sunday could have looked like had he not gotten hurt. The whole point is this. You can't make excuses for this defense.
No.
You just can't. Like, those numbers are inexcusable. If you have a few bad weeks or a few bad stretches, I get that. This is season. This is season long.
I am old enough to remember that when there were times where if the Panthers gave up 100 yards rushing, they considered that a bad day on defense.
Yeah.
And that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
53 Chubas. 53. 53. We need 53 Chubas.
Maybe you can find a Chuba at Carolina Ford dealers. With the Ford F-150 on your team, it's game on. See your Carolina Ford dealer today. Maybe. Chris, we'll talk to you on Sunday. Everyone, hope you're enjoying your holidays.
This is Christmas. And what have you done? Another year older. And a new one's just begun. John Lennon. I miss my guy, even though I was never alive when he was alive. But miss him.
That'll be good.